for this item beside.
The ones that are recording?
No. We're recording now. Oh no.
That's okay.
We have really good notes.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, now it's live.
Oh.
I forgot to hit the bright green button. We'll have a really good recap at the end, okay?
Well,
Can we
yeah,
do that?
we just discussed over the notes and everything.
It's okay.
Who's gonna want to listen to a 2-hour meeting?
Well, we have the notes.
We have really good notes, and we have a half hour of important information. I'm really sorry.
Okay. So, we've created a little subset for you guys. So, the ADCs may include, but are not limited to, the coordinator, area coordinator of leaders, the coordinator of leader accreditation. We'll figure out the team listing, the financial coordinator, the communication coordinator, and area professional liaison, and the communication skills instructor / coordinator. Now, once again, I know that these are not all positions that have human beings in them.
Yeah, that's okay.
But this seems to be
ideal.
Yeah, this seems to be what, or even a slightly paired ideal also. It is.
Yep.
Okay. And that's probably what it's. All right, so the ADCs will communicate with each other and the area leaders mainly by mainly by email and sometimes by phone. Now, do we want to add in the social media?
Yeah, this is that part that we were mentioning
Yeah.
earlier. So how does this area team want to communicate to its area?
These things are close to each other.
Oh, to
And it
each
says
other
to
and
each other
area leaders.
To each other and area leaders. So by email, sometimes by phone. Is this where we want to put
What is our list earlier?
social media?
List was by the Google groups,
Yahoo groups, Facebook groups, comment, etc. That's what I have.
I don't think we want to commit ourselves to a particular provider.
That sounds like
Yeah.
that sounds like a subcommittee, and that will decide that. Whereas this is, let's put in as many viable options as we can have, minus Pony Express.
That's the same one, like communicating to the leaders, each other.
So do we want to just cut and paste what we had for leader communication?
Yeah.
So
Email, phone calls, and or social media by postal by request.
I would leave out the postal because if we're talking to each other,
carrier
it's
pigeon.
more of a immediate.
This is the ADC's communicating with leaders.
Right, so what does that need a more?
That's why I never had it.
Were you saying something there?
But for some reason, she wants.
And I just even post, let's say they mail out a brochure for an event or flyer. You know.
Okay, we're adding options rather than subtracting options. I thought you were saying to minimize the options.
Maybe next time bring someone
I think we're torn at this point between trying to see what needs to be in the agreement to get through what's going on and like actually making the sub-actions of the agreement. I personally think agree. We're adding option like we need to decide on a method of communication that's consistent and clear and easy for everyone to use. And that's definitely a huge problem in this area.
Okay, so that sounds like policy and actual execution of our work rather than.
Remember, this is a draft. This is.
No, and I want to keep the discussion moving forward. It's just, I don't know how to make it more definitive without,
Well, maybe having a draft will help that though. We get.
Well, I'm going to jump in here with my suggestion for ambiguous legalese again. Maybe for now you could just put something like in a manner mutually agreed upon by all parties. I mean, I know that right now it sounds really hard to make an agreement, but if you could just put some language in there like that, and then later we can all have big mud fight and figure out what's best.
Yes.
Jello.
Pudding.
vodka.
So there probably does need to be a way of making decisions that is not pure 110 people, like enthusiastic consensus.
Denise Selling, let's add this to the list along with this idea of joining another area network that's going to need to be hashed out. This is also on that list of something that needs to be hashed out is how do we communicate as Illinois? So let's just kind of put that on the side.
No, that's fine. Like I said, definitely want to keep things going, but it's definitely a problem.
Okay. You know everybody in the world is going to want to give their opinions by social media after you post these questions, so I'm sure you won't have a shortage of opinions. So you can just have these bullet points and say, you know, you need to respond now, and we're going to make a decision whether you respond or not, you know, within the next week or month or whatever, because there's so much bickering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went over to
Oh, go ahead. No. So, moving forward, the ADCs will have face-to-face meetings at least twice a year, more often if mutually agreed upon.
I like
How's that
that. I really like that. Okay. I really like that. Thank you.
I didn't write it. I cut and paste it. Really? I cut and paste it. This is actually, you can see where I stopped editing because everything's just kind of bunched into one paragraph. Decisions will be reached with input from area leaders whenever needed, by consensus of the ADCs whenever possible, or by majority when consensus is not possible, with the dissenting ADCs agreeing to support the majority decision.
And just FYI, this is kind of how the area has been running.
Yeah. I have questions about the input from area leaders whenever needed.
Please.
What does that mean?
Who decides when they're needed or not?
So when it's a mundane decision because someone has emailed us trying to convince us to use something that we have no information about for the area website, do you want to be bugged with that, or do you want me to say no thank you? I say no thank you right now.
Yeah, sure.
That's
so
I don't. Yeah. So things like that happen on a daily basis.
Sure.
And I do that.
So maybe
Is there a
something that
potential
would
better way of putting it?
affect, that's something that would affect something like that? Something, because you're asking, she's asking me to define what that is, so.
So maybe we need to
Decisions that would,
maybe we need to take out the parentheses about with input from area leaders and make that a separate sentence.
Yep.
Area leaders will be contacted when a decision that affects overall area operations is
Will
required.
be consulted?
Will be contacted for input?
will be notified.
Well, I think we want to try to keep it two ways.
Yeah.
But when it's something that's going to majorly impact the area's operation,
Or matters, how did you say it?
that impact area operation.
Right. When we find out that the area network has increased the dues, we need to talk to you about that so we can increase our dues.
Well,
Of
and
course we're going to
You
contact
can
you.
put something in there like we can give
Sorry, I
quarterly
missed it.
reports or something.
That's next.
For what we discussed. That's next.
That is, I think that's in here under, there's a published annual financial and published reports. There's something about that a little bit later on.
It's the next. It's a bullet now, but it's definitely in there.
Yeah, once again, it's only unedited.
Sure.
And it seems like some of this can be a little polished, I think, in maybe positions. Just a suggestion.
In ordering them?
Not necessarily in order, but this is a big bulk. And
Yeah, she's bulleting each one.
Oh, I
Yeah.
moved it into bullet points.
sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
that was where I
I'm not
stopped
live
editing.
for some
It
reason.
all kind of gotten pasted as one big lump, and I
Got it.
stopped editing.
Okay.
Yeah, my phone doesn't do
I'll
that.
take
Okay.
All right. Okay, so this is where it starts breaking down by the area coordinating team and their positions and what's asked of them. So first it goes to the area financial coordinator. So publish an annual financial report.
In the all?
Okay, now that's the Arizona thing.
Yeah.
So do we
How do we publish the area financial?
in order to assure transparency and financial accountability.
Or you could just take it out and let the decision about how it's published be made as.
As the current AFC, the all-fight club. Do you know a good method
Of what, I'm sorry.
publishing the financial,
Well, it's in in whatever method we decide for area communications, I'm sure there's a upload a document feature and it can be posted there.
Okay, so I think we could just strike out annual, and the obligation is to publish the annual financial.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so provide, then the AFC will provide the annual financial report to all of our area networks and international upon request. That sound good? Anything else you think needs to be added to that?
No.
Okay. Okay, next, publish the area coordinator of leaders will publish and/or, this is the once again, the AD thing, report as needed to ensure accountability between all leaders and the Leche League of Illinois. And we'll make our information available to international by reporting as requested by the area network or upon.
Is it a requirement to be annual, or can we come back and do it, like, in my sorority, we have to biannually do our bylaws. And so a subcommittee of however number of people that we chose goes through it and makes any changes that we need, usually there's no change. And then brings it back to the group, and then we approve it. So if there's a requirement on the agreement that we have to do it every year, we do that.
Okay.
But in the agreement, can we maybe say, 2015, on the even years, the area team comes together and checks to see if there's any addendums that we want to make. We bring it forward to all leaders for any feedback, and if there's anything we want to change. That way it's a living document.
So you are, it doesn't right now say annual. Are you asking to have that added?
So when you're talking about agreements, you're on a different paragraph.
Oh, I'm
You're on the
sorry.
very last point for agreements. This thing's talking about the coordinator of leaders reports,
Oh, okay, sorry.
Which is the MGE.
I jumped.
which is the MGE.
Not my fault.
Or
So
leader
there's no other report other than the MGE, which we covered, right?
So MGUs.
Well, this is putting the this is saying that it's the responsibility of the coordinator of leaders to make sure it gets to,
That the leaders get to see it.
that the leaders get to see it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that international.
Isn't that what Denise did this year with all of the? Yeah,
Waivers collection
she
has
shared
the
that.
responsibility to share with
But it
us.
also gets.
Should we just say we have department?
Network as a whole, right? Yeah, it's a big.
So we, as an area, currently have Denise, who works to support our coordinator of leaders.
Yeah.
And all this would be saying is that
The leader
it's putting
department.
that responsibility and how she decides
I think that makes
to
sense.
Yeah.
delegate that.
The leader
Her
department
responsibility to
publishes
make
it.
that Denise gets these and gets them out to do everything needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we say leader department again? I like you put that out there.
I'm not sure that it makes sense in the same way here. Because this is sort of listing the responsibilities of the different ABCs, that's the section we're in.
Okay. So the ACL makes sure that the stats get published. Got it.
Okay. You sound good on that?
Yep, got it.
Okay, now, provide leaders with access to the knowledge in the International Professional Liaison Network through communication with the area professional liaison by email, phone. PL department is supported through our AN.
Do we want to change the email and phone to the thing we've been doing?
Yes.
Express.
Yeah, because I think that's part of this thing.
Gotcha.
How many pages was the element one?
4. It's front back, so 2 pages front back.
Oh, this is the other half right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't correct her.
That's right.
Yeah, sorry.
Can we pull this to the side? Got it. Gotcha, Kelly. Okay. Looks like we have another person on Hangouts in case. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, whoever just came on? Look, there's someone else new here.
Dark hair. I think she's talking,
No,
but
we can't hear you.
You're muted still, Mary.
She's. I saw the mic go, the mute go.
Oh,
Still native.
Yeah. So sometimes Hangouts does this. For me, every time what works to fix it is to quit my browser and reopen it. You might have to do that to be heard.
It looks like Connie.
So you know, we're over halfway through on this right now.
Yes, we've got about a page left. Mm-hmm.
So,
Should we keep going?
once Mary gets her stuff working, we'll get back to her. Let's keep going through.
Keep going.
So, next, provide leaders with access to knowledge in the Leche International Leadership Department.
Am I finally unmuted?
Yes.
Yay! I've been here for a little while, but I'm Mary Sloan.
Hi, thank you.
Oh, it's so nice to finally see faces.
One quick second, I wanted to have Connie do that also. Connie, are you on?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I just figured it out. Yep.
And again, if you have anything to add or any questions while we're going through this, please just jump in.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you both.
All right, so I have access to knowledge of the Leadership Accreditation Department through communication with coordinator of leader accreditation. Once again, change that whole email, phone, whatever. Recognizing that Leche of International. You okay? Yeah. Okay. Recognizes that Leche International is the sole source of leadership accreditation, and that such accreditation is valid worldwide.
Yep.
Anyone challenging that one?
No, that's
All right,
boilerplate. Yep.
All right, provide leaders with support in continuing education through, this is going to get touchy, twice yearly leadership day organized by the ADCs and that event team, working together as needed. Content of leadership days are determined by leader requests combined with information received from Illinois, our area network, and other Leche League entities.
So we can say, instead of organized by the ADCs working together as needed, we could say the proposed area events team. And what about the twice yearly?
Oh, so
do you want to say that?
That's really restricting.
We don't have to be specific. We can just say occasional
we
leader
say
day.
regular
Regular
that implies that we are monitoring the agreement and keeping it safe.
Regular
Nope.
leader event days
Because it's also
without specifying the time.
biannually is expensive right now.
Oh, regularly. Sorry, we're on education days. Okay, I still am going back to that one last paragraph.
It's the next one.
Sorry.
It's the next one.
I just care so much about the agreement and it being, held to a high standard, well.
Okay, so we changed it to regularly, and we changed it to the events team, or whatever.
I'll read it in a second. Provide leaders with support and continuing education through regular leader days organized by the proposed area event team. Proposed we can take out if we agree to the event.
Okay, and we're all good with the content?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, here's your favorite. Yeah, come back here. Come here. Provide these agreements, and now this is the annually or biannually, annually in the, I don't know how we call things, but publish these agreements at a certain time in order to provide input from all leaders. Input from leaders can be provided through the communication thing that we have.
Our communications, yep.
As leaders choose, the ADCs will also review agreements annually, revising them on an as-need basis on leadership and ADC input. So how often do we want to look at these?
So, I feel as though our agreements should be available to all leaders all the time as they are on the area network website.
Okay, so we can say publish these agreements, current Oh, Abigail, let's stay on.
You go ahead and lock it.
You are.
It was Leche.
Oh,
Yeah, no, she
brilliant.
She gets out of our apartment. So we can say having current
Publication.
Current agreement
agreement
available.
available on Facebook, social, whatever.
Make
available,
agreements accessible.
accessible.
Make
And
accessible and keep it updated.
and
So, because it's live.
Yeah.
okay, so I think we can say we have the most current agreement will be published on
Something.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and the ADCs will review agreements
I think
biannually
I would say on even years.
on even years, revising them as needed, based on input from
Leaders.
leaders
Through our communications.
and the ADC.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in what is required of us that they be reviewed annually?
Right.
paying our dues is agreed. Yeah.
We can say that. Okay. And then my other question is, if we're going to publish them so that they're accessible all the time, what this is doing is something slightly different, which is that once a year we're showing them to people. We're putting them in front of everyone.
Well,
We want to do that.
we could also attach it when they get their invoice.
Yeah, it can be sent with their dues invoice.
Let's just say that,
So we can
yeah.
say that.
when you pay on your invoice.
You are recommitting yourself to this agreement when you pay
It's sent
your dues.
wherever it's published, like, along with the invoice.
Yep.
I think it's better to put the text in front than to
Yeah.
require
It can be whatever PDF that we put this on, because the PDF is a non-changeable document. It can be sent with the dues, the way Kat sends the MGRF that you fill out. It can be sent in the same way, except it's a non-changeable document in the PDF format. So you get to look at it again. We assume that everybody looks at it and reads it thoroughly. And when you are sending in your dues, in the same way that you are reaffirming your statement of commitment as a leader that year, because that's what you're doing when you pay your dues. And we can Kat can work on a letter once we have this agreement ready and affirmed by the ACT. We can have a special letter the first time we send out dues that year.
Okay,
In
that
2020.
sounds all reasonable to me. But I'm noticing that this first sentence also does something additional, which is in order to provide input from all leaders, which is odd.
That's on the even years. The same way that we
So
have to have their
change
input.
that function. We could put that function into that other sentence.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first sentence could then be, make these agreements accessible by publishing them. Somewhere.
I just have your communication options.
What? Yeah.
So when you're finished, let me know.
Input. No, that's not. ADCs will review agreements in the even years.
Do you want it to be the ADCs or do you want it to be a committee of volunteers? Because if we always choose the ADCs, I get the sense that within all the leaders, sometimes that's not good enough. Sometimes we want it to be just regular leaders. And in this sense, we can say it's an even year in the beginning of January. We need to review our agreement and make sure it's what everyone still wants by June.
So we could word it differently. Instead of saying ADCs will review, we could say in the even years, the ADCs will present the agreements to the area for review and input, something like that.
Right.
So it's the ADC's obligation to do the presenting, but it's not the ADC.
Review it, right.
How about the ADCs facilitate? How about saying the ADCs facilitate?
Good.
Yep, you got it.
I mean, how would you describe what you're doing right now? The ADCs called for a meeting, volunteers came.
facilitated.
This is what we're doing.
I mean, we facilitated. We're not driving it or forcing anything. You guys are out here because you want to be.
Right, so that's an example of the wording we're going for.
Right.
Can I read it and see what you think? Make these agreements accessible by publishing them somewhere. In the even years, ADCs will facilitate a review of the agreements, revising them as needed based on leader and ADC input. Input from leaders can be provided through email, phone calls, and or social media.
I like it.
Okay. So I'm going to highlight all of that because we did revise it. I like it. Revise to make the review happen by the area rather than the ADC.
On those even years, I expect you to be hanging out. You'll be one of my volunteers.
That's the part of leadership I don't look forward to. Or you don't remember another 60 years.
Can somebody check and see if we are obligated to review annually?
Where would that be? Let me look in the.
Confirm that this is okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, let me look at the checklist.
And do we want to add here another bullet point that says leaders will confirm their commitment to these agreements?
It says it in the beginning.
Is that
It says that when you pay your dues, you're
Already.
okay? So it doesn't need another point. Okay, thanks.
So we were asking if once a year or not.
Yeah.
I think whether or not.
When and how will the agreements be reviewed and revised? Cross-checking. Yeah, when, how?
Okay.
Yeah, I think whether it's a year or 5 years, I think it's good to say we're going to come together once a year, especially for the newer leaders that come to kind of say this is a group of us and we do this, not when we feel like doing something, like it said.
Is that something different?
No, I'm saying, I agree with the once a year, sorry.
Okay.
It's on the even year, so it's biannual.
Next, all right, to fill ADC team vacancies. All right. An effort to fill ADC team vacancies will begin with a search letter sent to all leaders in Illinois by CN Post postal email and will include brief job description with department relevant information and a brief description of how ADC team members work together. An ADC team member who is retiring may also approach leaders with personal invitations to consider the ADC position. A dialogue will follow between any candidates expressing interest from the search letter or from personal invitations and the ADC team.
Question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Where it says, the ADC team member who is requiring may also approach leaders with personal invitations to consider the position. Does that mean X person is I think you'd be great, you should do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have issue with that?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think that's okay because I kind of feel
Okay.
similarly, because then it sets up this.
Because I feel like then you're just depending on how that person handled their position, it's just passing the baton.
Exactly.
And I think
Reinforcing bad habits that
possibly, and I think that either yearly or whatever, I feel that certain positions people should only be in certain positions for so long before it needs to be changed. You can only be president for 8 years, but you can't be this for 10 years.
Yeah.
We need to constantly be changing with the flow.
So if that's the case, if we want to,
Because we look at that.
No, out there, that's just my opinion.
So how do we? So then to take it a step further, because I'm in agreement with you, then how should we say it? How should it be handled then?
Okay, wait, well, really quick, I want to address what Beth has asked. So it doesn't mean when we put forward and say, hey Beth, I really think you make a really good ACL, that doesn't mean you get the job.
Yeah.
It means that you answer the questions and the whole team has to say, well, maybe Beth wouldn't be really good at this, maybe she'd be good at this, and then you have to go and answer those questions still too.
I feel like delete that sentence.
Okay, but what if instead of saying, I'm not wearing my glasses. Okay, because a team member who's required may approach leaders with personal invitations to consider. What if they could recommend somebody?
Recommendation instead of invitation.
Consideration.
Recommendation is really what happens.
And does that imply that then somebody else contacts that person?
Right, like if there's, I think what she's looking for is some vetting in the process.
Yes.
You don't have this is the way things are done with these people, and then you recommend someone who's in like cahoots with you, and you're the one saying, yes, you're signed on for that. There's no checks and balances.
Okay, so
And I think that's what you're
Recommend it and then discuss with the team.
Yeah, the member who is retired may also approach may approach the ADCs with a recommendation to be taken into consideration, but not discussed with the recommendation.
Mary?
Yeah, I think that the way it's written actually, I actually like the way it's written in that all it's saying is if you're retiring, you have the ability to go and say, hey, I think you'd be good at this job, you should consider applying, basically. And then you don't put someone in the awkward position of like, hey, I recommended you for this job, but I didn't tell you that I did it. Instead, you go to the person and say, I think you'd be good at this job. If you're interested, let the whole team know. And then the whole team still gets to go through that vetting process. It sort of puts it in the person, in the individual's hand who's, instead of recommending them and not telling them, they have to go and say, hey, I am interested.
Okay.
That's my take of what that means, at least.
I appreciate you saying that. And really quick, I want to take it again. It's the only hat I have right now is LAD. So if you have an interested mother in leadership, how do you go about it? Do you go and talk to her about her strengths for leadership, or do you send someone else?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's really normal to go talk.
You gotta go at this from that perspective for these kinds of positions, because it's all still the Leche League. It's all still that, because we need to approach our leaders as mothers as well, and as colleagues. So I understand very much trying to not create a good old girl system, because we don't want that. So if we're concerned about the wording, let's figure out the right wording. But we do need to think about how that whole process.
So by nature of everyone having the best intentions of their roles being fulfilled if they were to retire, wouldn't by default you may suggest somebody in general, but does that have to be laid out here? Like, wouldn't you just do it?
Does anyone have a problem with any of the recommending and any of that? I think the problem that people are having is that the ABC team decides who ends up filling the vacancy. That needs to be an election.
That's what I was going to
That
say.
doesn't need to be ADC.
I think that would make you feel better.
Then there's no good old girl network.
Overall,
Okay.
I think this person's great.
So-
I think that person's it.
So here's the problem with an election. The leaders aren't the people working with the ACV team.
But that's how democracy whatever works, like in general, like I'm not in Congress, but I still get to vote. And if
Like,
Congress
what if you're
sucks,
saying
then
here
I can
our options as people?
Yeah, and if the option
Here's
is
our
one
term
person,
limits.
then people don't whine as much necessarily. They're like, if you have a problem with that person, send your own.
Go into all of these things and find me an area agreement where it's an election, and we can start talking about that.
That's the point I was going to make, is if you do go back and look at these that have been approved, it does appear that actually we don't live in democracy. Leche is not a democracy, it's a republic. So it's a representation. And let's look further and see if, a search letter is put out. And maybe those who have better older memories than I do, because I'm very new to this game, I thought at some point in time there was a sort of not election, but the final candidates were putting out for maybe not a vetting by all the leaders, but at least a question.
The example of the election is the search letter. So we put the search letter out there, and all of you get an opportunity to volunteer. Candidates volunteer first, and then we vote on them. The vetting process is kind of like the election as well, where they answer all the questions, and we can show you guys all the questions. I have an APL job description from US West that I just put out. I'm sorry I'm not in the video. We answer all the questions and stuff, and then it's the ACT team deciding whether or not you're a warm body at this point.
I agree that right now, in general, like if there was an election, there would be one person for half the jobs and 0 people for other jobs. Totally agree, and not in any way saying that I would not vote for any of the current people. I have no problem with any of that.
That's not exactly what I'm saying either.
But if there was, there
don't
is
think it's
0
the precedent.
ways that there's any feedback from. I mean, if you had, let's say, 5 people who are in the ADC team go crazy pants all at once for some reason, whatever our catastrophic scenario is. So there's no way for the leadership in general to start.
Yes, there would be the removal process, which we will talk about later. For sure. We need to have that laid out for sure.
The next section is the events and
Because then it is, okay, yeah, then it is the ACD's responsibility to remove that other ACD from her position, as well as any other leader who has gone crazy pants. Because we've done it.
Yeah. That's a very adversarial, like, person getting it front loaded.
And let's be very clear, we have not removed any leaders in Illinois. We have given the leaders the choice to do the right thing. No one has been fired from Illinois ever.
Okay, now, I'm going to say it is, I believe, 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And I know we are all passionate, want to get this done, but I know some of us cannot stay much longer. And we are to the difficult part, I would say. But, we only have 3.5 paragraphs to go. So we have 1 or 2 options. Those who can stay push through. I unfortunately am not one of those who can stay.
Well, and you are our fearless leader.
And, but this may be a good time, now that we have this, that we can all go back to those who aren't here in our groups and in our micro areas of our area and say, let's look at this and start working through these great higher, I think that's a theoretical processes of what ifs, and let's set a time for another meeting where we can come back and pound through this, having already done the really dirty work of maybe some of these.
Is this because we have 14 representatives from all areas here, including our remote people, is this an okay central place to continue to meet?
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Yes?
Good. Yeah.
I'm happy to continue to host.
Yeah, are we the furthest south?
We're Oak Park. We're Oak Park.
Is anyone further than us?
No, I think we might continue to get other folks, like from the Naperville, Wheaton area, depending on the time that we do it. But I think since we have these people here, that we need to try to find the dates that works best for us. Is it okay to do another doodle like we did? That's the poll that was sent out originally. It's a meeting day manager, so that we're not deciding the next day.
Okay, but are we deciding a month in advance, or like are we meeting again in a month?
I think Jennifer should suggest when the next time we should meet it. Is that acceptable, Jennifer?
Hold on a second, I just attached.
Sure. No rushing. And the other thing I would really appreciate, because I flubbed up the Google Air, which I will not do again now that I understand how it works, is if someone would take 2 to 5 minutes to recap what we did at the beginning of the meeting. Also for those that joined later in the meeting, because we had a great.
So we're at the point where we need to close out this meeting because of time, and we're saying to the people in the room and on the phone, are we willing to continue this work?
No. What I mean for a recap is what we did at the beginning.
Do you want me to?
Yes.
Would you from the notes?
That'd be great.
So just to wrap it up. So if someone listening remotely, can you just reach out what's going on right now? So this is important. You need to listen, for the replay.
Okay. Does everyone understand what we're going to do on the Google Hangout? You guys all good?
Okay, so what I have are the notes for the area agreement meeting for today. Jennifer, we open with the agreements on West's website to reference to instead of starting from scratch, the different 3 ones. What? Yeah. 3 other states have already had their agreements available online. We have a U.S. West agreement located online. We have the Arizona, Kansas, the Wyoming, Colorado ones. The different agreements include similar ideas. Some are more detailed than others. After we decided on an agreement, there might need to be a revision from the, the area?
Agreements Council team.
Yes. The area Agreements Council team. These all follow the checklist, which is on the Google Drive. The Arizona agreement, the simple agreements, easy to understand and read. The Kansas, most basic, discusses jobs, accountabilities, disagreements, etc. Wyoming, Colorado, more in-depth, covers many different topics. All of those are available on the Google Documents, and we will include a link later if you want to click on it yourself and read through it. The people that have chosen to attend have put forward a motion to discuss the draft recently written to choose the details of it. We did some open questions where Denise/Stephanie discussed reporting the meeting and communication stats are needed for accountability within groups and from leaders. Katie emailed us suggesting that we need to connect to the Alliance area instead of West if we decide to go with a different area.
She proposed,
Yes.
that we can.
Meredith, attending the meeting online, was from Indiana and was connected to Alliance and shared the support she felt from the Alliance area. Stephanie will research into leadership guidelines and see how that could fit into our agreements as far as what kind of mothers, whether working mothers are allowed to leadership, because we feel strongly that is a very good part of Illinois, and we need that.
And Stephanie believes there may be differences in how the different area networks treat that.
Yes. We began to discuss the Illinois agreements. We had a motion to add reporting to the end of the good standing sentence located in the second paragraph. Everyone agreed? Motion to change what? Motion to change DA to leadership department, managing coordinator, and monthly to quarterly for stats. Motion to change postal to postal by request. We need to choose the means of communication for just area by using different groups or email. We can't have a variety of different things, so it's getting too difficult.
Can I interrupt you for a moment,
yes.
Beth? Because it sounds like you've gotten into a point of the meeting where you're talking about the edits that we've made in the document. Yes. And I would say that those edits are in the document. Okay. And it might be easier to look at the document with the notes and comments rather than read them, if that sounds okay. Do we know where the recording started? At what point the recording started?
It was about 12:30.
About 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
We were still editing.
Yeah. So we were still editing.
So you can just say that.
Yeah, and
to
so
look at any of the edits in the document.
Yeah, the last thing was just the vetting process, the ADC positions, and that's what I believe we got in the recording, and then the ending meeting with discussion of the next meeting.
Okay. So in the document, I've highlighted the sections that we changed from anything that was copied and pasted. The Illinois agreements document began with stuff that was already approved. So anything that we have changed from approved stuff is highlighted, and there are notes in the comments about some of the discussion.
Got it. Okay. And I will make sure to include on the broadcast that where the recording began and where we added the recap, because I can do that on the YouTube link. Good idea.
So, at this point, we are going to stop this meeting. We will, and we are stopping in the middle of how to fill ADC team vacancies, and we're going to decide on potential dates for a follow-up meeting. Now, here's the question I have. We're going to do a doodle. Should we do a month from now? Kind of pushes into two places. For those of who have children who will be going to school, we're going to be getting into the first day of school. So we can't do more. a month from today, I know a lot of people will be getting ready for school, last minute vacations, things like that.
Do you
Want to say after Labor Day?
that's what I was gonna suggest.
Okay. So
So the doodle can include like.
you can hang out from the back.
We can.
Do Wednesdays seem to be, if we want to pick like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
I can be in person. I'm going back to school in the fall. I will not be available Monday through Thursday from 9 to noon. And I live in Bristol, so it would take me 45 minutes a day.
I'll be gone all of September.
You're gone all of September.
For 3 weeks.
And we know that any meeting is never going to
yes.
get.
I'm available Friday.
So what
That's all
were
I'm
the
saying.
spread of dates that we did on this last doodle?
Was there
It
another?
was like,
It was actually the whole entire calendar of July, except for the week that Stephanie was out of town and we couldn't use her house. So I did do all days. We set a time. Does this time frame work for people in theory?
Yeah.
Because I think we all like to avoid traffic, and it allows us to get
Saturdays
home
and
before
Sundays
school
also.
pickup. And I was gonna say, when on the doodle poll, that actually a Saturday was surprisingly a good option for many people.
Saturdays also do work for me as well. So,
Well, do we want to maybe spread it like the last 2 weeks of August to first 2 weeks of September and see what
Yeah, I
people say?
think a Saturday would be better.
that's fine, sure. Yep, let's do that.
Yep, we'll give it a shot.
So do you want me to set that up just because I just did it?
Yeah, I have,
I'll take the action to set up a doodle
Okay.
poll. Should I invite the people who were here today? Should I extend the invitation to anyone else?
Always.
I think they should always be open to all leaders.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to confirm.
Yep.
So you're saying the last, from the 22nd through the 9th, fill out your availability, or do you
Or
want
with
to
the
shift it
exception
forward?
of the Labor Day weekend, correct?
Well, let's do through the 16th.
Right, okay.
Because it'll make up for some of the Labor Day weekend, and if you go 22nd,
Should I do
to
20?
the 9th, and that's only 3 weeks.
Should I do 29 through 16?
Or 22nd. I say 22nd, because 29th you're really pushing getting ready back to school. Just say 22nd.
So we start school the 22nd.
We start school the 16th. So I'm good whatever.
I gotta drive to Indiana.
So
That
we'll do that. That'll be open for its amount of time. We'll figure out a date, and we'll have that posted on our normal multiple media things.
And is Kat and Stephanie responsible for that part of it again? Is that something you're willing to do?
For what?
Publicizing it, putting it up on the list
If
and
that's
the
acceptable.
Facebook. And
Um, if you guys want us to,
I will set the poll.
And when we announce it, if we would then let people know that the agenda, the focus will be to finish going from the filling ADC team vacancies on. That will be our goal, is to do our draft edits.
And then we'll intend to share it with all the leaders for review and input.
can I just ask that, since Susan and Jennifer do have the notes and the agenda and stuff, would you guys be able to share it on the Facebook and Yahoo pages?
Okay.
Because I do feel like sometimes it's received better, not from Kat and I right now. Sometimes folks just get panties in a bunch.
Well, but, you know, because again, it goes back to the idea that we were the ones who just kind of facilitated this, but you guys are able, eager volunteers who are
It shows that it's
doing
not
the work
just us.
Understood. I think that's.
of note taking and document editing.
Would you rather we also do so for the next meeting, that we could do that
Or
as well?
if there's anyone else that is able to hop on Facebook and still do it for publicizing.
I can publicize it.
The next meeting once
Once there's a date.
to put the doodle out, so it would
She's
be.
doodling because I don't even know what it is.
Right.
Okay, so you'll put out
I'll
the
do
doodle.
just like, because I just did it.
Okay, and then you'll
I took
share the
pictures
link.
and I'll have pictures because
That'd be
Facebook priority.
Awesome.
Nice.
So I'll say.
And then once we have it, just a suggestion, once we have the date set up, we can pin it on the top of the group and make it available for us to first thing you see.
Okay.
Real quick, I just wanna.
Did you get who's
Oh,
taking those
hang on.
jobs?
Hang on.
in the notes? That'd be good.
Meredith had to log off. She's so appreciative being able to attend remotely and having her voice heard. Thank you, Leche ladies, and for all that you do. Side note, she's interested in taking on responsibility that doesn't require travel, such as becoming an assistant, CLA or something. I will talk to her about that. Awesome. As far as CLA stuff goes, for that, there's a little bit of a vetting process. It might be involved in here. Does anyone care if I just continue working on with that? Because the more CLAs we have, the easier it is to accredit people. Does anyone have any super concerns about that? About
Working for
CLA work, that's
without
accreditation.
agreements being finalized? I would say things are sort of business as usual until
Oh, yeah.
there are agreements, which makes it even more.
Oh yeah,
you know, I'm saying
because there is like a 6-month training process for that. If she's interested in that, go.
Yeah,
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. And I'm just gonna ask quickly if there's anyone on Hangouts.
Meredith is a little overwhelmed. So-
Well, that's not her.
Well, that's her thing to figure out.
Right,
She can take it out.
I was
Well,
worried about that.
I thought I could, and then I was like, nope, I'm going back to school and I'm working and
No,
I'm
it's
doing
okay.
that, so can't do that. What is your name? I'm sorry.
Susan Penrod.
Can I do it from Oregon?
Yes, you can.
It's all online.
Oh,
There's
you're
a
moving to
lot
Oregon?
of email.
You are moving.
communication.
You said you were moving?
Does anyone else from the Hangouts have anything to say before we close out?
All right. Then,
Thank you so much for joining us,
I'll
ladies.
make a
We're
motion
so glad to have
that
you.
this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Agreed, days, wonderful.
Okay, I'm going to officially stop the broadcast. Thank you, ladies.